Picture this. An accident victim is rushed into the ER, and the EMTs have to make an absolute split-second decision. Is this patient alive or dead? There's absolutely no time to run exhaustive labs. They have to act immediately based solely on the limited signs right in front of them. This right here is the ultimate high-stakes dilemma. You are forced to make a life-altering choice with incomplete information. And honestly, in statistics, we face this exact same kind of dilemma every single day. We constantly have to make sweeping choices about a massive population based on a tiny, limited sample. And anytime we do that, we risk making a catastrophic error.
Just think about the EMTs for a second. What if they decide the victim is dead when in reality, the person is still alive? They stop treatment. That is an absolute tragedy. But on the flip side, what if they don't realize the victim is alive when the victim is actually already dead? Well, they might try to resuscitate for a little bit longer, but the outcome doesn't actually change. Clearly, one of these errors is far, far more devastating than the other.
So, by the end of this lecture, you are going to completely understand the foundation of hypothesis testing, the formulas behind it, and exactly how to spot and avoid these two critical types of errors in the real world. I promise you'll never mix them up again. Let's dive right into the mechanics of how we map out these decisions.
Okay, let's draw out what we call the outcome matrix. Whenever we make a decision in statistics, we start with a baseline assumption. We call this the null hypothesis, written as H0, but we pronounce it H0. Just think of H0 as the status quo, or the legal assumption of innocent until proven guilty. Now, there are two realities. H0 is either true or false, and there are two actions you can take: reject it or don't reject it. If it's true and you stick with it, fantastic, correct decision. If it's false and you reject it, also a correct decision. But then there are the other two squares. Those are our traps.
Let's break down the very first trap, the type 1 error. By definition, this is the decision to reject the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is actually true. In plain English, guys, a type 1 error is simply a false alarm. It means you abandoned the status quo, you jumped ship, even though everything was actually completely fine.
Now, you might be raising your hand right now asking, why do we have to use Greek letters for all of this? Well, the reason is that statisticians use the letter alpha to represent the specific, calculated probability of committing this exact false alarm. When we design a test, we want to know exactly what the chances are that we're going to mistakenly ring the alarm bell.
So that brings us to the second trap, the type 2 error. This is the decision not to reject the null hypothesis when it is actually false. Think of a type 2 error as a missed detection. The status quo was wrong, something fundamental changed or was entirely broken, but you completely failed to realize it and just kept going on as usual.
We represent the probability of this missed detection with the Greek letter beta. So just remember, alpha is your false alarm, beta is your missed detection. And ideally, we want both alpha and beta to be as close to absolute zero as humanly possible, because they represent the exact probabilities of us messing up.
Now that we understand the basic idea, let's look at a really simple but absolutely crucial formula. If you subtract beta from the number 1, you get what we call the power of the test. This brilliantly illustrates your probability of successfully making a correct decision when the null hypothesis is indeed false. You want high power. And a quick pro tip, a great way to increase the power of your test and reduce your chance of a type 2 error is simply to gather more data. A larger sample size always gives you a clearer picture.
Wait, let's test this to make sure it's really sticking. Let's apply this to a totally real-life scenario. Imagine a rock climber named Neva. Her null hypothesis, her baseline assumption, is that her rock climbing equipment is completely safe. Based on our matrix, what happens if she makes a mistake? Which error has the greater consequence for her?
Let's map it out together. A type 1 error means Nava thinks her gear is unsafe when it's actually perfectly fine. That's our false alarm. The consequence? She throws away a perfectly good rope. It's annoying, it costs her money, but she lives. A type 2 error means she thinks the gear is safe when it is actually broken. The missed detection. The consequence? She climbs with faulty gear. That is deadly. So in this specific scenario, the type 2 error undeniably carries the far greater consequence. Context is literally everything here.
Let's pivot and look at another high-stakes example, this time over in the medical field. Suppose an experimental prostate cancer drug claims a cure rate of at least 75%. Our null hypothesis for this test is exactly that claim. The drug works at least 75% of the time. If a patient believes the cure rate is less than 75% when it actually does work, that's a type 1 error, the false alarm. They might miss out on a really good drug. But a type 2 error? That happens when a patient believes the cure rate is 75% or higher, when in reality, the drug is totally ineffective. Believing a drug works when it doesn't could literally cost the patient their life by influencing them and their doctor to choose a faulty treatment over a much better alternative. Once again, our misdetection, the type 2 error, is the much more serious threat.
But wait, I can hear you asking, is a type 2 error always the worst one? Let's flip the script. Imagine a company called Genetic Labs claims they have a product that increases your likelihood of having a male baby. Statisticians step in to test this. The null hypothesis here is our skeptical baseline. Genetic Labs' product has zero effect. If we reject this true null hypothesis, which is a type I error, what happens? It means we falsely announce to the world that this product works. The consequence is that hopeful parents spend tons of their hard-earned money buying a completely useless scam product. Here, the false alarm, the type 1 error, is actually the main concern.
Now let's connect this to real-life environmental science. Up in Massachusetts, there's a phenomenon called red tide. It's a toxic algae bloom. The Division of Marine Fisheries constantly tests local clams. The null hypothesis is the baseline assumption that the clams are safe. If the toxin level exceeds 800 micrograms, they have to step in and ban harvesting entirely.
Look closely at the two errors here. A type 1 error means falsely banning safe clams. This economically hurts the local fishermen, who lose their income for the week based on a false alarm. But a type 2 error? That means failing to detect the toxin and allowing those toxic clams to be sold at market and eaten. That causes mass paralysis and a massive public health disaster. So the type 2 error here is clearly, overwhelmingly, the more dangerous outcome.
All right, let's do one final rapid-fire pop quiz to make sure you've completely mastered this before we wrap up. Imagine you are an economist looking at a major city's data. Assume our null hypothesis states that the percentage of adults in this specific city with jobs is at least 88%. If we fail to reject this claim when the actual percentage is much lower than 88%, we've totally missed the reality of the situation. That's our misdetection, our type 2 error. But if we mistakenly reject the claim, shouting to the press that employment is low when it's actually 88% or higher, we've caused a massive false alarm, and that is our type 1 error.
To summarize our key points today, alpha is your false alarm. Beta is your misdetection. Always map your real-world problems back to this exact outcome matrix. Whether you're climbing a literal mountain, testing a brand new medicine, or regulating the local food supply, identifying exactly where your decision falls between the hard truth and a statistical error is the absolute most crucial step in data analysis.
As you leave today, I want you to look around and seriously consider the real-life stakes of the daily assumptions you make. What happens if you are wrong? Which error hurts you more? Keep that critical thinking incredibly sharp and make sure to join us in the next Explainer, where we are going to take this exact foundation and calculate the precise probability distributions behind these tests so you can mathematically